Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mad Scientist Brewing Beer Education Series. We are now firmly in the month of May, so in this week's video, I'm going to talk about a spring style beer called a Bock or a maibock, which I've got here in this goblet glass. It's very clear and very nice, so I'm going to enjoy it while we talk about Bock. So, cheers. Mm. All right, so let's get first into some of the vitals for this beer. All right, so this is in the Bock family of beer, which means that it will have an elevated level of alcohol. So it has an ABV of 6.3 to 7.4% alcohol. It has an original gravity of 1.064 to 1.072, or 15.7 to 17.5 degrees Plato. It tends to have a finishing gravity of 1.011 to 1.018, or 2.8 to 4.6 degrees Plato. It has an IBU value of 23 to 45 and a perceived level of bitterness of being moderate, and a color of 6 to 9, which is gold to light amber in color. All right, so some sensory notes about this. This is a deep gold to light amber in color beer. Being a lager, it is very bright to clear clarity, and it has a large, creamy, and persistent white head to it. For an aroma, it's going to have a moderate to strong, grainy sweet malt aroma, often with lightly toasted quality and low Maillard products. And a moderately low to spicy, herbal, or floral hop aroma is optional. Again, as it's a lager, so it has a clean fermentation profile, although some low fruit esters and light alcohol aroma are optional. Flavor-wise, it's moderately strong, grainy, sweet. This I can definitely get a lot of strong, grainy flavor from this example here. It also can be doughy, bready, or lightly toasty malt flavor that dominates with a little bit of rich Maillard products, providing added interest. There are optional few caramel flavors into it, but not terribly often. And it has low to moderate spicy, herbal, floral, or even peppery hop flavor. But usually that is present in the best examples, but it is optional for this style. It has moderate hop bitterness, and it is more so in balance for the hop direction with this style versus other bocks, which tend to be more on the sweet side. It has a clean fermentation profile and is also very well attenuated, not cloying in sweetness, with moderately dry finish, and may taste both of malt and hops. As far as mouthfeel goes, it is a medium body beer with moderate to moderately high carbonation. It's smooth and clean with no harshness or stringency, despite the increased hop bitterness compared to other bocks. And some light alcohol warming is optional. For characteristic ingredients, this is a German style beer, so a mix of Pilsner, Vienna, and Munich malts are all pretty typical. There are no adjuncts used at all. It is just an all malt beer. Light use of some pale crystal malts is possible, and traditional German hops would be used for this, and a clean lager yeast. As with many German lagers, decoction mash is traditional, although a lot of modern German lager beers have kind of moved away from this. Otherwise, the boiling for this would be less than with a Dunkelsbock to restrain the color development. You want a really pale bock for this. And you would use a soft water profile if you were going to be brewing this. So, talking a bit about the history of this, it is part of the family of Bock beers, which originated from Einbeck, a town in Germany in the 13th century, and later became popular in Bavaria. Maibock specifically is drunk in the springtime. Bock beers in general, they like to be drank during transitional times of the year. So when the fall moves towards the winter into the darker, colder months, or as you move out of the colder winter months into the spring, is when you would drink different kinds of Bock beer. So as you move into the spring months, you have this lighter version. So Helles, when you're referring to German style beers, Helles means light compared to Dunkels, which means dark. So if you'll see other styles of beers outside of the Bock family, Hell's Lager versus a Dunkel Lager will be a light version of the beer. Like other Bock beers, it's often associated with goats. It's kind of a play on word because in German the word Bock means goat. Um, when you're talking about Bock beer, though, the name for the beer was derived from Einbeck originally, but is kind of a bastardization of the way that they pronounced the city of Einbeck because it was a different accent from the north versus the south in Bavaria. So they became known as Bock beer. And then, yeah, the association of goats is just because it's the same word. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of Bock beer have goat on the logo because it's just a fun play on words in German. If you want to compare the styles, you can think of this as a pale version of a Dunkelsbock or traditional Bock beer, or a Bock strength version of a Munich Helles. It has less dark and rich malt flavor and can be drier, hoppier, and more bitter than a Dunkelsbock. It's also less strong than a pale Doppelbock, but it's got a similar flavor to it. If you want to look for some commercial examples that you can probably find, you have Einger Maibock, which is actually the one I'm drinking here. It's quite good. Einbecker Mai is another good one. Hofbrau Maibock, or if you were looking for one brewed here in the States, Chuckanut Maibock is another good one. So if you should be able to pick up a Maibock for this time of year, this is the time to drink it and enjoy it. Or if you can find any Bock, I'll go for it. I actually had picked up several different Bock beers, including Dunkelbock and Doppelbock as well, while I was in Portland not too long ago. So I'm saving those, enjoying those, although I decided to save this for this video because now we're in May. So happy spring. I'm looking forward to spring and the upcoming summer. Winter's fine for what it is, but spring and summer are nice too. So as we move into this transitional season, I hope you were able to find some nice spring beers to enjoy as we move on into the spring here and shortly the summer. So that's it for this video. Until the next time, cheers.